Alright, this is Chapter 10, Lesson 5, Pythagorean Theorem. Your objective is to use the Pythagorean Theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle to determine whether a given triangle is a right triangle. So, Pythagorean Theorem only works for right triangles. In mathematics, the Pythagorean Theorem, also known as Pythagoras' Theorem, is a relation in Euclidean geometry among the three sides of a right triangle. So, here's what it states. It states that in any right triangle, the sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs is equal to the square of the length of the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is always the side across from the right triangle. What it states is, and this isn't going to be perfect, but if this was a perfect square, the square of the sum of the two legs, if I were to make a perfect square out of that, the sum of the two legs will equal up to the square of the hypotenuse. And tomorrow we're actually going to be proving this theorem. It's going to actually be kind of fun. I'm going to do this in class. But for now, I just want you to believe me that it works. So you need to write down that A and B are the legs of the lengths, and C is the length of the hypotenuse. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So you need to make sure you write down your key concept. Alright, so here's my my first example. I need to write down my equation first. My equation is A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Oops. Okay, well, I have over here, now I need to evaluate what I know. 12 equals A, so I need to plug in 12 where A is, squared, plus 9 equals B, so then I plug in 9 squared, which will equal C squared. And now I just simplify what I know. Well, what is 12 squared? 12 squared is 12 times 12, which you should know, is 144. Plus 9 squared, 9 times 9, which is 81, equals C squared. 144 plus 81 equals 225, equals C squared. Now, I will find the square root of 225, the square root of 225. When you find the square root, the reason why I'm finding the square root is because I want to get rid of the square. The only way to get rid of the square is to do the opposite. Just like the only way to get rid of multiplying is to divide. The only way to get rid of addition is to subtract. The only way to get rid of a square root of a square is to square root it. The square root of 225 is something that you should memorize, but if you don't know, you can always do your upside down cake. 225 divided by 5 is 45. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. And then I can stop, and then I have 2 pairs and a 1. That's what I want. My 2 pairs are 5 and 3, so I multiply those two together. 5 times 3. And then the square root of 1 doesn't need to be there. And I'm taking them out of my square root, so 5 times 3 equals 15, which equals C. So C equals 15. Okay. Determine whether a triangle with the given side lengths is a right triangle. If it is a right triangle, then A squared plus B squared equals C squared will work. If it's not a right triangle, then A squared plus B squared equals C squared won't work. So I'm going to go ahead and do number 1 with you. How do you know which one's A, B, or C to plug in? Well, A and B do not matter as far as which one you choose for them, but C does. C is always going to be your longest measure, and that's what I said in the beginning. So this one will always be C. 16 will be C because it's my longest measure. So I have A and B don't really matter which order I put them in. I'm going to go ahead and label this as A because it comes first and this is B. But if I switch the order, it wouldn't matter. So I have 14 squared plus 15 squared equals 16 squared. So I need to see if this is true. If it is true, then it works. If it's not true, then it doesn't work. So 14 squared, and you should know it, but if you don't, you multiply it out. 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 1 is 4. 6, 140. 6, 9, 196. So I have 196 plus 15 squared is 225. We just did that one on the other problem. Equals 16 squared. 16 times 16. 6 times 6 is 36. 6, 96. Bring down my 0. 1. So 6, 5, 256. So now I add 196 plus 225 because that's what it states. So what's 196 plus 225? 12, 2, 3, 4. 421. Does 421 equal 256? No. So that means this is not a right triangle. Not a right triangle. If it were true, then you would put, yes, it is a right triangle. So I want you to do number 2, and then tomorrow when you come into class, I'm going to answer any questions that you have. Number 2.